How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Manatee Gaming. My PC is finally back. It's awesome. It works. Yeah. If you didn't know, my last video or two, I mentioned about the fact that my PC was in for a warranty repair. My CPU just died. I don't even know how, but it was dead, so it really sucked. But it turns out that it was able to be repaired under warranty, or replaced actually. So we are good to go. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit different. It's not going to be a money-making method like the last couple, but in today's video, I'm going to show you guys some really easy, cool tricks to make a lot of money flipping / investing while not having to sit there and do a whole bunch of price checks and stuff. This is something that I do all the time, and that's because I'm very busy in real life and I don't really have time to sit there all day flipping. When it's nice when I do get the time, but I usually don't. And a lot of time when I am flipping, I am doing price checks and stuff for the Discord server, so not a lot of time for personal flips. But using this method right here, you can be just like me and earn a lot of money passively in the background. Okay, so now we're moving on over to the Runescape wiki where we are going to be looking up a few different items. There are lots of different items you can use. I'm going to show you guys a couple different examples here, but keep in mind the specific items that you can use for this are going to vary. They will change over time. Sometimes things will become items you can use this method and other things will just stop working. But for the most part, there are a few things that have worked for a very, very long time. So I'm going to show you those in particular during this video. Also too, in our Discord link down below, you can check out in our Discord, go to the flipping school, and I'm going to have an entire section laid out to have this in text form with a bit more information. That way you can kind of deep dive outside of a video if you really want to learn how to do this. This method does make you a lot of money. Like if you did it for a very long time, like if you actually did this for a couple of years, you would make a ridiculous amount of money doing this. I have done that myself and it has worked. So feel free to check that down below. If that section is not up, if like, let's say you're watching this on day 1 of release, that section is probably not up yet. So just go ahead and check down there to see if it is up. And if it is not up in Flipping School, then it will be up there really soon. There are also other sections of Flipping School that you can use in there that are very useful and very good learning tools. We also have about 12,000 members on Runescape Discord server. You can go in there and talk to people and ask them about flipping. You can also ask me or the staff or whatever. You can also open a help ticket and get one-on-one help anytime you want to. You do not need to be a Patreon member or anything like that in order to be able to do that. But if you would be interested in checking that out, then I would highly recommend it. So let's get into what the actual method is. So just for the sake of giving this a name, we're going to call this graph flipping. I don't really know. It's I guess that's an okay name for it. And the reason why is because we're going to be flipping this almost entirely using the graph and not really looking at the item itself. Normally, when you are going to flip an item, you will do a price check, and then that will give you an idea of where you should be buying and where you should be selling an item. And that works really well, but in this case, we don't really need to do that because the items in our examples today are going to be things that are kind of staying along a certain path. And so let me go ahead and jump into it and explain it though. That way I'm not, just saying a bunch of things and you guys don't know what I'm talking about. So if you look right here at these Armadillo boots, for example, Armadillo, actually most of the God Wars Dungeon 1 items are going to fall into this category of things you can use for this method. So what we have right here is we have a graph. Let's say we start the graph right here at like January 2024. So we got like, let's do like 6 month. Yeah, all right. So we got January 2024, and that goes all the way until, let's say like March 27. So as you can see right here, this constantly moving up graph. What we can tell from this constantly moving up graph is that the item just consistently increased in price over a couple of months. It went from January until the end of March. So that is quite a long time that the item just continuously rose. It did not really do anything different. Now, what you could be doing during these times, like let's say you're trying to flip Armadillo boots, you could be price checking these every day or every couple days or whatever, however frequently that you are flipping the item. Now, that would work just fine. But the thing is, what we can tell from this graph is that, let's say, so the blue line, for example, is the price of the GE average. That is what the GE average would show during that time period. So the GE mid, so that'd be 37.39. And then let's say up here next, it's like 38.72, and then it's 40.10, and then it's 42.20, and then it's 43.24. We can kind of know by just looking at this graph that if we were to use the average margin of Armadillo boots and we were to just try to find a buy price of, let's say around here it was 37.39. Let's say you were buying them for, well, if the graph is continually going up, then most likely they were buying at something at mid or just below mid, and then they were going to be selling above mid. They would have to be selling above mid in order for the graph to keep on rising, so we kind of already know that too. So just by looking at this, we know we're going to be selling them above the mid price. Let's say that at this point they were buying for 37.37 and selling for like 4,200 or 4,300. For 4.3 million, sorry about that, not 4,200. 4,200K is what I was thinking to myself. What we could be doing is we could be buying these for mid and then selling them for 4.2 mil. And then let's say it moved a little bit up. So a few days later, we've been doing that for a while. And now we're paying like 39.31K and then selling them for like 4.6. And then up here, we're doing like 42.22K or something like that. And then selling them for almost 5 million. And then we're like buying them here at 44.10 and then selling them for about 5 million, 5.1, 5.2, whatever the average margin is on that item. So as you can see, we can continue doing that for all of these months. There isn't a single time period during here where they started to go down. So instead of price checking this item every single day, what I could be doing is just buying them and then selling them based on their average margin above the mid price, because that's what this graph looks like. So that may seem like something like, oh, well, how do we know that'll always work? Well, let's say right here, you know, it says 40.83. Let's say right there, for some reason, they were selling under. Now, even though the graph continuously goes up, if they were selling for under during this day, like let's say, oh shoot, I instantly bought some for 4 million flat. Uh-oh, is my strategy not working? No, it's working just fine, because next couple days later, they're continuing to rise. And we can sell them for even more. When that, you know, if they're buying them for the mid price is 4,300 right here, 4,300K, then we're selling them for 5 million. Anything that we would have bought during the last couple days for instant buy or accidental, oh, oops, they dipped down that day, even though the graph's not showing that. Maybe they dipped down. You can just sell them for more again. So if you see something that's continually rising like this, then you can just continually sell it above. Now, obviously, not everything works perfectly like that, but that was a several month period where we're looking from the beginning of January until the end of March. So January, February, March, that's 3 solid months that strategy would be working. So as you can tell, you could be buying up tons of these. Another thing you could be doing right here with this is you could be doing buy orders where, let's say you've got 4 different accounts and you've got a buy for 10 of them. In each, like on one slot per account, you have a buy for 10. That's enough to be able to buy you quite a few of them, because they have a buy limit of 1. You can buy 6 per day. That means you'd be able to not pay attention to it for almost 2 days. And I mean, obviously you could just increase to 12, and then you literally don't have to look at the game for 2 days. And then you've bought them up. You know that when you come log back in, you can sell them for more. That is what I do on most of my slots. I have alts actually that only do Guild Wars Dungeon 1 items, and Armadillo Boots is one of the items that I do, and that is literally what I do. I will put a buy offer in, I don't look at it for like 2 days, I come back on, and then I sell them. Some people ask me, hey Manatee, how do you manage to do like 9, 10, 11, 12 accounts at once? Well, that right there is how I do it, is because I do not log in every single day. I'm not looking at it every single time that I decide to play the game. Okay, let's move on through another example too, because some of these are going to have different graphs, and that way I'll be able to explain a little bit more to you as well. So upgraded bone blowpipe. So a cool little note, I used to make a ridiculous amount of money by flipping bone blowpipes. So I think it's been a while now, because I used to flip these. Let's see if the graph shows it actually really quickly. I'm going to show you something cool. So, yeah, the all. Okay, remember when they were this price up here and then they just dove down? So when they were like way up here, like really expensive, like 40 mil, 30 mil, whatever, that's when I was doing bone blowpipes, and I used to make an absurd amount of money doing this exact strategy that I'm showing you right now. And what I would do is, I'm trying to remember, I think it's the bone blowpipe. Yeah, it's this. Okay. This right here, for some reason, it was this one right here. This one was the one that was the most expensive of all of them. Yeah, see how this item was this high? The other pieces were dirt cheap, so it didn't really make sense to try doing it with those. But what I did with these right here is, you see how this graph just continuously rises? So what I would do is, quite literally, like right here, I'd be buying them at like 12.5, and then I'd be selling them for like 20. Or up here, I'd be buying them for like 20, and I'd be selling them for like 30. Bone blowpipe used to have the most ridiculous margin. It was absolutely absurd. I was quite literally doubling my money on bone blowpipes. There were times where I would buy them for like, 12, 13, for whatever, and I'd sell them for 25 million. Like, they quite literally would be doubling. And it was doing the exact same strategy I was just explaining on the Armadillo boots. It had like that upward graph like I was talking about. So when you're looking at this, if you're like, oh, that's kind of stupid, I really highly recommend that you don't think that and that you really give it some thought, because when you don't have to continuously price check an item and you just already know it's going in one direction, then you can just continuously flip it without even having to price check it. Okay, let's look at bone blowpipe. I can barely even say this. Let's look at this item. It has a little bit better buy limit of 2. Also, you notice also that most of the time, the items that tend to be really good for this method are the ones that have the lower buy limits, so like 1 or 2. If we look at this chart right here, look at this graph right here. This is another great example, because we've got like the beginning of December, we've got about 2 mil, and then today, about 2 mil. It has not changed since the 1st of December. So it's literally been a flat line right here. So if you were to, let's say, try buying these for like 1.6, I'm not honestly sure exactly what these buy for because I'm not doing bone blowpipes right now, but you could do them. Let's say they bought for like 1.6 and they sold for like 2.2. That's just an example. I mean, obviously, if you want to go try bone blowpipes, which they do look to be pretty amazing, and they are one of the examples I'm showing because of the way the graph looks, then it would be a really great idea to go try them and then just kind of mess around with the prices. What you want to do is try to buy it as low as you can. You should not watch this video and then immediately go try buying them for mid-price. That doesn't make any sense, because as we can see, they're just going flat. Like, they're not rising or falling at all, so we don't know for sure they'd be buying at mid all the time like those boots showed, but we would know that they are about, they're just even. They're like up and down, up and down, up and down. So sometimes they'll be buying below, sometimes they'll be buying above. They're pretty much always selling above, according to this graph, although sometimes maybe like right here, maybe like right, actually maybe about today, they might be selling slightly below the mid. But anyway, the point is that once you lock in those prices, like let's say you really lowball it and you try buying them for 1.3 and then they buy, then you can sell them for 2.2 or whatever. You're making a lot of money by just literally having, you don't have to pay attention to this at all. From December 1st until today, you could have been putting infinite buy amounts into your Grand Exchange slot and then just sitting there and just watching the money flow in. You would literally just log in and then sell them all. I did this also too with Rippers. So the Ripper Demon main hand, offhand, I was buying those for about half of the GE mid and then selling them for probably about 150% of the GE mid, and I did that for a very long time. Something else that I would highly recommend is that if you are somebody that has a bit more money, then what you can do, and I'm not saying you got to be rich, because obviously this item right here is only 2 million, but if you can afford to hold on to 50 or 100 of these, then what you can do is this. If you're sitting there and you're like, oh hey, I found out that I can buy these for 1.5 million and I can sell them for 2.5 million, awesome. But then for an entire week, they're not selling for 2.5 million. They won't even sell for mid. They sell for just below mid. Well, then don't sell yours off. Just hold on to them and wait for this point where they start rising back up again and then sell them for 2.5 million again. There were times where I had, for certain items of these, like actually the Ripper Demons are a great example, I had gotten up to about 500 Ripper Demon, whatever they're called, the claws. I had gotten up to about 500 of them at one point before I was able to start selling them off. But then I sold them all off at a pretty good pace and they were all gone, and I made way more money than if I would have just started selling them back because the price wasn't going up anymore. So you kind of have to look at the graph, and if you see, like, let's say it's from like December 1 right here or whatever, like December 1, and then let's say you're right here, and then you're like, oh, the things aren't, oh, they're not selling for the mid price, they're not selling blah blah blah, and I've got a bunch of them. What should I do? If it's already been this long and there's any reason why they should be rising or falling at all, then the chances are it's going to continue looking like that. So all you have to do is just be patient and wait for that price to come back up on the sell and then dump them all again, and then don't lose. Like if you're waiting for 2.5 million and you're about to sell them for 2 million, you're about to lose 500,000 coin profit each. and that is not something you want to miss out on, so keep that in mind. Next example here is going to be the camel staff. This is probably the last example I do because I don't want to make this video a million hours long. If you want to, like I said, I'm going to be writing up the entire thing in our flipping school, so you can always go check that out or just ask questions in the comments down below and I'd be glad to help you. I know this isn't the most exciting video ever, but this is some really good stuff, and I'm telling you, if you incorporate the strategies that I'm showing you in these videos, if you just do them all, you will be able to make so much money in RuneScape that you will never need money again. Like, it's a game, guys. You just gotta know how to play the game. So here, we'll scroll down here and we'll check out this camel staff. So camel staff has a buy limit of 100. This is a very different item, but they have a volume that is extremely low. Now, I can tell you from experience, you can definitely buy more than 5 camel staffs in one day. That's right here probably just tells me there's not a lot of people flipping camel staffs. This volume is not always accurate to exactly how many are traded in the Grand Exchange in total, by the way. I have definitely bought or sold more items than this number has shown. There was one time where I sold 300 ice dyes in one day, and the volume still showed like 50 or something. So don't take that as like set in stone. Now, this right here is another graph that I wanted to show you because this is something that you can still make a lot of money doing the exact same thing, but the graph is going down. So we saw on the armadillo boots, the graph was going up. On the upgraded bow and blowpipe, the graph was just a flat graph and was not moving anywhere. And then this one right here, it is going down. So and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why would I buy into something and keep holding on to it if it's going to keep going down? Well, as you probably guessed, for those people that are pretty experienced in flipping, the camel staff has a pretty good profit margin on it in general. So the camel staff usually has a pretty good size margin, which allows you to buy this for much lower than the mid price, especially because, you know, it's constantly going down right now, which means the buy is pretty much always going to be under. You can kind of tell that. And then the sell is probably going to be right at mid or just below mid. That is what we can tell by this graph. You know, that might change some days. Maybe it's selling for 2 million below mid or whatever, but then it's buying for 10 million below mid. So that's what you're aiming for when you see a graph like this. If I'm up here on this day right here, and also too, you see how this is like a flat number for a solid amount of days? Let's see how many days that is. So it's 11th of August, and then we're going all the way until 11th of September. So even though it looks like it's constantly falling, each one of these steps of price here is about a month. Like it's not like free falling. This thing's not going down super fast. If I click it over to the 6-month one, you can see that it's much more spread out. If I go to 3-month, look how long it is one price. It's not like dropping every single day. That's not what this graph is showing you. So just make sure that you do like look at the time extrapolation here to see exactly how long this is actually at this price point. Don't just be like, oh my gosh, it's dropping, I'm gonna have to panic. No. We need to see how long it's that price. So judging by the fact that it's actually one solid price for an entire month long, then we already know that we can use basically the upgraded bow and blowpipe strategy of I could be paying. Now we know we need to be below, right? Because it's constantly going down. We know that we need to be below. So if we're sitting right here and I'm going to be offering camel staff, let's say I want to offer like 31 million, 32 million, and then selling it for about 37 or 37.5, something around there. That's what you'd want to be. That's where you'd want to be if you see a number like 37.75 mil and then you know it's going down. And then over here, you know, it's like 35, basically 36. So maybe I'd want to be buying it for 30 and then selling it for 35.50 or something like that. That is where you want to be on an item like this, but it continued doing the exact same thing for an entire year. You know exactly where it's going to go. Now, I really hope this strategy helped. I understand that this one might be a little bit harder to grasp, especially if you're newer to flipping, but don't be afraid to try to learn something new. That's my recommendation. Anyway, guys, I really hope this video did help you out. You can honestly make a killer amount of money doing this type of strategy. If you were only doing like the armadillo boots, for example, and you were only doing these 6 of them per day, which is, well, because you have one account, you're doing the 6 of them per day. Let's say you were making a 500,000 per flip, which is kind of low for those, but let's just use that as an example. That would be an extra 3 million per day, which is an extra 90 million per month. So doing the very bare minimum, you can add just about 100 million per month by doing something so casual as armadillo boots. But like I said, that is kind of a low margin. You can probably get more than that pretty easily. I just don't want to give you an unrealistic number. But if you were to have like all 8 slots rolling, you've got an item that's making you a mil each, you got a buy limit of 2, you get the idea. You can see how much money this can be making. Anyway, I wish you the best of luck, and please hit that subscribe if this video helped you out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.